A mad Amelia tried to push past Javier, but ended up trapped between his legs in the bus aisle, with no place to look but down at his piercing gaze.
Just now, what was that you said about me and other women? Explain what you meant, and please be clear.
His eyes bore into her as if trying to uncover a hidden truth. Amelia wanted to shoot herself. In a moment of frustration, she let her jealousy slip out, and now he was asking her to elaborate on it. What embarrassing form of torture was this? She crossed her arms and narrowed her eyes. That night when I didn't show up, you treated me like a monster for leaving you all alone on your birthday. But you weren't alone. You found another woman to keep you company that night just fine. So why guilt me as if my absence mattered? Amelia hated herself for even caring about this and turned her head to avoid his probing gaze. But he gently turned her chin back to him and met her with a confused look in his eye.
Who told you I was with another woman that night?
His tone was laced with amused annoyance, as if he found the accusation absurd.
I was with Max at my parents' place all evening. When would I have ever found time for a date?
He seemed genuine as he said it, but she heard the woman's voice on the phone herself. What kind of fool did he take her for? I don't know, Javier. It seems like you had managed just fine around midnight when I called. Her voice was bitter. Thinking he was now lying to her face, tears returned to her eyes. Javier furrowed his brows.
That night, my sister told me you called while I was in the shower and said you told her you'd call back in 10 minutes. But you never did. Instead, it was you who was busy spending the night with another man. Yet you have the audacity to blame me.
Amelia froze for a moment and blinked in confusion as the pieces slowly fell into place. So, the woman who answered your phone was your sister?
Carmen. She met Max that night, and I think he may have a little crush, by the way.
As Amelia registered the whole misunderstanding, a faint relief settled over her chest. She sighed, and her eyes softened. I wasn't with another man, Javier. Not in the way that you think. I missed your birthday because I was in a car accident. I did spend the night with Charles, but it was in a hospital room. Javier's eyes narrowed as he assessed her words for truth. She continued. That day, Charles was taking me to see my father, but a truck collided with his car before we got there. It would have crashed into my side, but Charles swerved and sacrificed himself to protect me. Javier's face grew dark as he imagined Amelia in a dangerous car wreck.
Where were you hurt?
His voice came out low and commanding. Charles broke a few ribs and had some internal bleeding, but he's recovering.
I'm asking about you.
Javier cut her off. His concern was evident, but hearing Charles's name still irked him. Amelia blinked. I'm okay, she replied softly. Some metal cut into my ankle here, but it's healing. Charles was the one who... Before she could finish, he crouched down and grabbed her ankle, his warm hand wrapping around it. The unexpected touch sent a jolt through her, and she steadied herself by placing a hand on his broad shoulder. There's a scar. His tone was flat, but his touch was surprisingly gentle. Her heart quivered as she stared down at him, crouched before her. The sight of the powerful prince kneeling in front of her made her chest tighten with conflicting emotions. It's, nothing. It barely hurts anymore, she murmured, her voice shaky as she pulled her leg back. Javier straightened up and his hands unconsciously rested on the sides of her thighs.
Why are you only telling me this now?
She glanced away, recalling how harshly he had dismissed her that night. You hurt me before you gave me a chance to explain. He took this in with a solemn nod.
So you and Charles weren't together that night, but since then?
The scene he witnessed moments earlier of Amelia in Charles's arms certainly implied a deeper level of intimacy. Amelia cut her eyes to Javier and tilted her head. Charles and I are just friends. She saw his jaw clench and wondered what that was about. Then he said, Were you being just friends outside his apartment tonight? In his embrace? He saw that? How did this man manage to be everywhere she was? Amelia pressed her lips into a straight line and spoke firmly. That was a goodbye embrace. I do not want Charles, Javier. She looked down and spoke softly to herself. I wish you would believe me when I say that. Amelia turned, prepared to finally walk away, when Javier held her wrist and turned her back to him, his eyes now soft and resolute. Okay, I believe you. Javier gazed up at her with warmth in his eyes. He slipped his hands under her shirt and held on to the dips of her waist, where he drew light circles on her skin with his thumbs. The little motion sent electric shivers all through her. Feeling the most at peace she's felt all week, she gazed down at the face that captivated so many of her dreams. Amelia ran her fingers through his hair, and he closed his eyes as he leaned into her touch. Just then, one more piece of resistance stung in her heart, and she hesitantly asked, And Paloma? He looked up into her eyes. What about her? Amelia didn't want any more misunderstandings, though she feared the answer. Who is she to you? Javier exhaled. Paloma is an obligation, nothing more. A thing I agreed to back when my life was very different. Amelia smiled sadly, bitterness evident in her eyes. She's a very pretty obligation. Javier held his hand to her face and gazed at her with an intensity that shook her heart. She is not you. Unable to bear their distance a second longer, Javier squeezed her waist and pulled her close until her legs hugged his thighs and their mouths collided in a passionate kiss. Javier's hands ran up her back, and she allowed herself to melt into his embrace. Feeling his chest rise and fall against hers, he tangled his hand in her hair and tilted her head so his lips could trace their way from her ear to her jaw and down her neck. Seeing her lashes tremble with every touch, he thought she was the sweetest thing he'd ever held. And when the heat of his breath finally found her chest, she arched her back and a faint sigh slipped past her lips. But their bubble burst when the bus suddenly roared back to life and its blinding fluorescent lights flickered back on. Amelia's eyes shot open and she shrunk, giggling. Javier, the driver is back. Unbothered, Javier chuckled as he pulled her in close again and greedily kissed her neck. Should I pay him to get lost? Fuck it, I can just buy the whole bus. Amelia whispered nervously. Someone is going to see you. She took his hand and pulled him to his feet. Hurry, let's go. The two of them laughed like teenagers as they ran up the aisle and hopped off the bus before it drove away. When they made it off the bus, Javier's entourage pulled up around them. He took one of the cars and sent the rest of the convoy away so he could personally drive Amelia home to her apartment. Sitting in the passenger seat, Amelia's face was still flushed from the heated moment they shared, followed by the embarrassment of getting caught being intimate on a public bus. The car ride was steeped in silence after a night where so much was said. By the time they arrived at her building, Amelia unbuckled her seatbelt and broke the silence. Well, this is me. It was late, and the entire neighborhood was quiet and still. Javier glanced at her before leaning back in his seat, as though contemplating his next move. She hesitated, but ultimately opened the door and stepped out before turning back. If Max hasn't gone to sleep yet, Please give him a goodnight kiss for me. Javier frowned slightly.
Why not come back with me and do it yourself?
Amelia didn't know what to say. Though she and Javier had sort of made up, there was still a laundry list of unresolved issues between them, and Amelia wasn't sure moving back into the villa was the best thing for her to do right now. After a brief silence, she pointed toward the apartment building. I better head up now. Javier gave her a quiet nod, and she left, disappearing into the shadows of the building. He sat in his car, watching the doorway for a while, his brows furrowed with a trace of frustration. Why did it feel like every time he took 2 steps forward with Amelia, she still managed to slip out of his hands? Just then, he remembered something and pulled out his phone. He made a call to Dr. Marquez.
Hey, Manuel, it's Javi. Can you do me a favor? Could you prepare some scar removal cream and have it delivered to my office tomorrow?
To find out what happens next, download the Pocket FM app in the next minute to get free access to all episodes of The Royal Accident for free.